Yo, 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 today is February 6th. This video is going to be about Dubstep for Moms, so we're going to start off with Call Me from the album Dubstep for Moms. So I want to talk about kind of the marketing and like the concept of Dubstep for Moms, once kind of how the name got conceived from the original intention and philosophy. And if you watch my last video, I kind of get into how Dubstep for Moms is fundamentally a worship of dubstep fundamentals. You know, every song is in the same key for the most part, and each song follows very similar structurings and patterns and whatnot. And I wanted it to be very background-esque, so you could listen to it in the background. You know, I wanted it to be multi-use, multi-function, you know, have the music be way more value than just like whatever it was. Way more value than a banger in the club. Way more value than, intricate ear candy for a producer or something, right? I want it to be accessible to the point where you could play it in the background. You know what I mean? You could just have it going on in the background and be doing random things. Let me tell this story. So I remember back in like 2014, I started to get a lot more into like jazz and stuff and background music in general. And in 2015, I spent a ton of time listening to a lot of different types of music, mainly as like a background element. And I'd always cruise everywhere with a Bluetooth speaker. And everywhere I went, I just would like put on music in the background, you know? And one of the things I remember, and this is talking about the album Beauty of the Bird, and I kind of mixed Beauty of the Bird to have this effect on it as well, but it wasn't as intentional with the songwriting and production elements. I was like hanging out with my mom and my aunt and maybe like one of their friends, and they were all drinking wine, and I put like the speaker somewhere and just put on Beauty of the Bird like at a low volume, and I just like witnessed how it was just perfect background music, and it really complemented and changed the way they were like communicating and talking. And I think that's a big part about music in general, and I think or just like the background element, you know what I mean, like put a song on. But I feel like one of the major values of dance music is that background element. Like if you think about dance music in terms of like a party music, you know, like my favorite scenario to think about it in is the fundamental party. Like you at a friend's house, you know, their apartment, whatever, and there's like maybe anywhere from, 3 to 10 people, right? The music is just supposed to be in the background so everyone can socialize, you know? And I feel like my favorite feeling at parties, not just like this type, but like at a club too, is when you can really feel the buzz of the room. And everyone's just kind of moving, but it's not like I'm just like tranced out staring at the DJ, or I'm tranced out staring at the lighting and stuff, but I'm actively like socially engaged with everybody around me, and everybody around me is on the very same wavelength, you know, which that wavelength is ultimately controlled by the DJ. You know, each song is in a specific key. Each song has these specific tension things. And let's talk specifically like about house music, because this is way less common in dubstep. And I think my last video kind of talks about that disconnect of why I think dubstep is great, but in a lot of ways self-deprecating to the culture it's trying to create, right? Or it's creating it. There's obviously like fantastic dubstep culture and whatnot, obviously, and there's great vibes and stuff, but I think when you compare it to like house music or techno, there's the tortoise and the hare kind of stuff, you know? So like that's how I kind of look at a lot of, dance music is you have everyone is just kind of on the same wavelength and socializing. Like a good tech house music club party thing. Like everybody is just like kind of connected and they're just socializing. You can really feel the buzz of the conversation everywhere. You know what I mean? Like you're impacting the conversation at the bar. You're impacting the workflow of the bartender. You know, you're impacting anything going on in the whole room, right? And that's kind of like the power and control you have and what you're really facilitating, you know? So Dubstep for Moms, I really wanted to kind of hit on that. I wanted to hit on that kind of just in general with my music, and once I picked dubstep as like the focus, I went for the deeper stuff because it's more minimal, it's more focused on the fundamentals, you know, and it's interesting because I've been making non-deep dubstep too lately, and it's just like the whole grab of like different kinds of themes, I guess, is way different, you know, and it's because of the energy gap, you know, and there is like a middle ground between them, which I haven't really spent too much time focusing on, but I know it's there. And how I intend to focus on that is just by a lot of repetition, making a lot of music, you know. Eventually, I'll carve it out, you know. So back to, I feel like this is kind of going, you know, many places. And this is why I want to make lots of videos about this stuff, because it's also good for me to practice talking about this stuff. The more I practice talking about it, the better I can get at communicating it and summarizing it and get it perfected down to where I can kind of mass communicate it, you know what I mean? So, Dubstep for Mom's intention is kind of for background music in a way, you know? I wanted it to be very predictable. I wanted everything about it, you know? The structuring on it is interesting. If you look at the structuring, there's not really any intros on it. It's funny, I played Call Me first, and that's actually one of the longer tracks on the album, and that's actually one of the only, Call Me and Bird Fever are the only tracks that existed before I started this project. They kind of got like revamped into it, and Call Me is actually the only track on the album that's not in E minor, which is interesting too. I kind of don't like that about that track, but I like that track too, so I'm glad it fits in there. And you never know what people are gonna like either, you know? So I've gotten a lot of compliments on Call Me and Bird Fever, which is funny, you know? I kind of wanted it to be mainly like the intro to be kind of like a pre-chorus vibe, and then go into the drop, which would be kind of more of the hooks, right? The meat, and then have like another, like the second breakdown be kind of like just another pre-chorus, and then drop again. And most tracks on this album follow that. They're shorter, they're not extended. You can see if you look at it, a lot of the songs are 3 minutes and 12 seconds long because of that, which I like, but some of them I wish they kind of went longer, but that's just how this one went. You know, obviously you learn by doing. So when some more follow-up deep dubstep music from myself comes out, you might see some adjustments and some, you know, extended takes on a lot of the things I've been thinking about and applying. But it just makes it really easy, really breathable. Like there's someone who commented on my last video I need to reply to, but they're talking about like the kind of the R&B fusion into the deep sounds, and that's like something I really grasp at for this stuff. Like I'm writing all this in minor keys, so like the soul and R&B kind of vibes I've been really integrating into this sound of like kind of like late night, like mysterious music, you know what I mean? Like not really, like I want it to be like you could listen to this in your car, you know, like in terms of everyday practicality, you could listen to this in your car, you could listen to this at your home, you know, you could do chores to it. I'll get to that story in a second. And then you can, you know, you can play if you haven't heard Dubstep for Moms at a club yet, it sounds awesome. Like these songs might not be the most slammed mixing, but like on a proper sound system, these things, like, in my opinion, hit just as hard as anything else because they're mastered so well. And there's so much space and there's so much intention with the mix, you know. It's awesome in a club. So I wanted that kind of multi-level thing, but I want it to be like kind of a mysterious, some of the songs have like a mysterious kind of like, you know, who is she? Or like, hey, what's your name? You know what I mean? Like you're in a city, you're young, and you're like smoking cigarettes or something. You know. But yeah, so I made the whole thing. It was funny because when I was making it, I knew I was working on something great because tracks were just flowing out, you know. I think I was making most of the music early on in the morning. At the time, I'll make a video about this a little later, but I was working an inside sales job, which is telephone sales. Great job. And I was working Central Time Zone, so I was getting up at like 6 o'clock in the morning. So I just had like a really early on, like a circadian rhythm. And on the weekends, I would wake up super early and write like 2 or 3 songs before anyone was stirring, you know. And it was great. I think I wrote most of them on like these headphones or like these headphones, you know, just catching the vibe. And I was like starting to show friends back in Austin and stuff. And, you know, there was a lot of like conversation about how to release this stuff. Do you do EPs? Do you do singles? Whatever. And I was making a lot of it, and I made a bunch of it. And I sent it to one friend in particular, shout out Adam. And he said, he goes, dude, is this an album? Like he loved the vocal aspect to it. And he was like, I just listened to them all at work and I'm listening to them all again. Like, I love this. And I was like, yes, it's an album, you know? So I had it as like, I finished it. I think I had like the 17 or 18 tracks or whatever. I think I shaved one off at the end. And I was starting to send it around to friends and stuff. I said to someone, and they were like, yeah, I just listened to it. It was really great. I just listened to it while I was folding laundry. And I was like, that's exactly what this kind of is. It's supposed to be like you put on and do other things. Like it's supposed to like be like a background track to add value to whatever you're doing in your life already. You know what I mean? Kind of create a solid BPM as a pacing. And I think 140 beats per minute is just like a great pacing. Obviously house is too, the 120 to 130 range, but something about the 140 range is just like excellent pacing, right? And I like how it's all in the same key, or at least if not the same key, it's all mixable, you know, harmonically in sync. So it doesn't really feel like there's that many crazy turns, you know what I'm saying? So I was kind of like trying to describe the music to certain people, right? And I was trying to say like, it's like dubstep for moms. Like you can sit around and drink wine to it. You can like do chores to it. You could sing along in your car to it, and you could dance the club to it. And I had one friend, shout out Tony, he was like, hey, you should just call it dubstep for moms. And I was like, oh my God, that's it. And I was laughing. And I know if I'm laughing in the marketing process, it's going to be fun. I'm going to have fun marketing it, and it's going to be like that just makes it more authentic to me. So it makes me more excited about it, and it makes it easier for me to I guess get people to check it out. You know what I mean? It's funny, you know what I mean? Like dubstep for moms, it's like kind of funny, you know? But when you listen to it, you're like, this is good. This is good music. Like there's a gap for stuff like this that like has more value than just like, you know, the darkest, deepest, most brutal dubstep song you could play in your sets or whatever. It's like, no, this is like everybody's dubstep, you know what I mean? And that's where I went with it, and got it mastered. And I've been kind of trying to like, you know, whenever I get a funny idea of how to market it, if you're following me on Instagram, you've probably seen some funny videos and whatnot. But I feel like it's like, I'm really just like at this point, really just introducing the concept of dubstep for moms right now. Like this is a great album. I think Dubstep for Moms is a classic, but I'm You know, and this is what I say this in every video I talk about with Dubstep or Big Chocolate, is like you need to release the music that you're sitting on in order to have a platform to speak on it. Like I have so much music to release that will add so much more to not just what I'm saying, but allow me to say a lot more. But I still think it's important that I get on here consistently and start to talk about these things, just really start to kind of build around it, you know. Feels right to me. I feel like I'm doing the right thing right now, how I'm talking about this stuff and how I'm leading up to things. I'm not leading up to be like, oh, just wait, coming soon. I'm not trying to do that. I really feel like you need to have stuff public. You need to be able to go on Spotify and listen to this now if you want to talk about it. I don't want to sit around and listen to unreleased demos or whatever and talk on YouTube about it. I mean, it's great, and I probably will do that at some point, but it's like it doesn't have the same weight as if you're actually got it out and you went through the whole process and whatnot. So, you know, try to keep these videos under 15 minutes. This is 16 minutes already. Pretty long, but, you know, obviously I got a lot to say, and I appreciate you guys listening, and more to come. The intention of this video is to talk about the marketing efforts of Dubstep for Moms, but we kind of went more into the fundamentals and the philosophy behind it, which is great. You know, we'll get there. We'll be more concise as we go, but yeah. Thank you. Shaka bra.